Season 5, Episode 4, Something Worth Dying, had a dual focus between understanding the historical importance of the armory and Eric Drummond making his way back to the open pit mine. It's with the importance of the armory that Season 5, Episode 5, Detonation Threat, keeps its focus. We learned that there could have been a bloody battle at the armory, and that its purpose could have been defensive rather than offensive. But what were they defending? Chad Ollinger and James Keenan make their way to the armory with a GPR device in tow. They plan to use the GPR in the area around the armory in the hopes of finding a potential void or cave entrance. After a possible hit, Chad and James survey the surrounding area. That's when Chad discovers some long-lost friends. Could this be another sign that the armory is connected to Blind Frog Ranch? Chad and James's discovery leads to drill master Denzel Roberts coming back to Blind Frog Ranch. As par for the course, the drilling only leads to more problems. Denzel starts the drilling, only for the entire operation to come to an explosive halt. Does this mark the end of drilling on the ranch? Eric decides to test the soil to see what caused that thing to happen. Eric's discovery leads to concerning information. Blind Frog Ranch could literally be a powder keg. The finding that Eric shares leads to some slight dissension between Josh Feldman and Dwayne. Josh is coming at this from a treasure hunter's perspective, while Dwayne is looking at this operation like the oilman he is. Will Dwayne heed Josh's warnings and refocus how they attack this operation? Or will Dwayne listen and change course? All I will say is, make sure you watch the next time on, because it's frightening. You can watch Mystery at Blind Frog Ranch. Detonation Threat on Wednesday, July 16, at 10 p.m. ET/PT on the Discovery Channel. As I said before, you don't want to miss this one. The air over Blind Frog Ranch felt heavier than usual, as if the high desert itself had begun holding its breath. The land had been restless for weeks, but this time there was something different, more urgent, more volatile. Shadows stretched longer than they should have in the mid-afternoon light, crawling across dry ground laced with secrets buried too long. In the aftermath of last week's seismic readings near the Northeast Cavern, the team had narrowed their suspicions to one chilling possibility. Someone, or something, had planted explosive devices deep beneath the Earth's surface. What started as an investigation into the strange electromagnetic pulses had turned into a race against time. Dwayne Ollinger's boots crunched over the rocky soil as he led the team back to the original drill site. Satellite imaging had shown heat signatures inconsistent with natural geothermal activity. They pulsed in erratic bursts, spaced in precise, unnatural intervals. Chad, gripping a map stiff with folds and grit, pointed to a new hot zone that had lit up just 48 hours earlier, less than 300 yards from the subterranean chamber where the team had discovered the metallic object weeks ago. Theories flew silently between the crew members. Could the metallic box be more than a relic? Was it a trigger? A decoy? Or perhaps a warning? One that had gone unnoticed until now. Charlie, their explosives consultant, surveyed the anomaly with narrowing eyes. His instruments hadn't picked up standard explosive signatures, but the magnetic interference made it nearly impossible to get accurate readings. Something deep underground was creating localized power surges that blanked out drones, disrupted compasses, and shorted out even the hardwired seismic sensors. As night fell, a copper-hued moon cast jagged light across the mesa. The team gathered around the entrance to the vertical shaft, staring down into the cold breath of the earth. The elevator system had been upgraded with a steel cage after last year's collapse. They descended in grim silence, the hum of the motor the only sound in the oppressive dark. Below, the temperature dropped sharply. Moisture beaded on rock walls, glinting faintly in the light of helmet lamps. A new fissure had appeared just beyond the chamber where the box had once been wedged into the stone, an unnatural, symmetrical crack that sliced through solid rock like a wound. No one could explain it. It hadn't been there 3 days ago. Inside the fissure, strange black growths had begun to emerge, mineral formations that reacted faintly to touch, resonating with a frequency just on the edge of human perception. It made teeth ache and skin crawl. Geologists had been baffled. One even refused to return after a brief survey, muttering something about harmonics that didn't belong in this part of the world. While scanning the walls for structural weaknesses, Jamie's device picked up a sudden temperature spike, hot, fast, and growing. The signal matched the heat. The team scrambled into action, tracing the source with handheld scanners that fuzzed and flickered the closer they approached. They found it nestled in a jagged alcove near the bottom of the fissure, a dull gray casing about the size of a paint can, half embedded in rock. No obvious markings, no wires, no blinking lights, but it hummed with energy. Not mechanical, something else. Something wrong. The decision was unanimous. The crew pulled back topside, and Charlie began prepping the detonation chamber. If it was a bomb, it wasn't like any he'd seen. It looked dormant but alive, as if waiting. He refused to touch it until more data came in. Back at the command trailer, Chad pored over thermal imaging, while Duane monitored the rapidly shifting magnetic fields. At 3:14 a.m., a second object appeared in the thermal scan. Then a third. All clustered near previously explored tunnels, each pulsing with an identical frequency to the first. Duane's fists clenched at the table's edge. This wasn't an isolated threat. It was a network, maybe even a trap. By morning, local law enforcement had been contacted discreetly. Not out of fear of sabotage, but because there was growing consensus among the team that the devices were ancient, or extraterrestrial in origin. Old tech, older than the legends etched into the rock walls nearby, yet alive with intent. Each device rested in a natural geode or mineral pocket, as though placed carefully, not dropped, not buried. Positioned. A storm rolled in just after noon, lightning splitting the sky in forked warnings. Underground, the seismic readings spiked once more. The cavern's ambient noise grew louder, pulsing in sync with the storm above. Then came the shockwave. It wasn't a quake in the traditional sense. More like a ripple, a pulse that shook instruments but left no surface damage. Below, a camera feed captured the instant a second device cracked open, releasing a faint vapor that dispersed instantly. The lights in the command trailer surged, flickered, and died protocols kicked in. Everyone evacuated the lower chamber except for Charlie, who refused to leave without confirming the chemical composition of the vapor. The hazmat readings showed nothing lethal, but there was movement now in the lower fissure. A glint, then two, reflecting dim light like wet eyes in the dark. Jamie returned with a LiDAR scanner to map the shift in the cavern structure. The results made little geological sense. The rock walls were folding in on themselves, shifting not from pressure, but as if being manipulated. Bent from within. Patterns emerged, circular symbols and angles too perfect to be natural. A sudden realization hit Chad as he matched the scanner's readout to petroglyphs found near the entrance weeks earlier. The ancient carvings were not warnings. They were blueprints. The devices weren't placed at random. They were aligned. Perfectly. Geometrically. Their locations mapped a symbol that matched one found etched into the metallic box recovered from the water tunnel back in Season 4, an angular constellation resembling Orion, but with one star exaggerated and enlarged. Duane pieced it together with the others, chilled by the implication. The star pattern matched the night sky for only 1 week every 2,000 years. That week began tomorrow countdown wasn't arbitrary. It was cosmological. As the sun began to set on Blind Frog Ranch once more, casting blood-orange hues over the rugged terrain, the ground beneath the fissure trembled again, this time accompanied by a low rumble that didn't fade. It grew louder, closer, vibrating through steel beams and into bone. Charlie signaled to evacuate. The device had begun to glow, faintly at first, then with increasing intensity. It wasn't detonating in the conventional sense. It was activating. Calling. The signal spiked and blanked out the entire command center. Communications went dead. Drones dropped from the sky like stones. Even analog compasses spun. Then, just before the screen went black, the final frame of footage showed a beam of light, narrow and precise, erupting from the cavern floor and striking the sky with terrifying silence. The ranch was no longer just a site of buried treasure or ancient mystery. It had become something far more dangerous, a node in a machine whose purpose was only beginning to reveal itself.